All right, welcome to another episode of Nightcap with Messaround, and tonight I got my good friend James Gonzalez with me. How you doing, James?
I'm good. I'm almost over the COVID. I'm starting to get all the senses back. My eyes have been good all the way through, so I've been watching whatever I can since I'm stuck here in quarantine. Just happy to be here. I told myself, man, I want to at least get one show in this week
It's
before I
definitely good to have you back for
thank
sure.
you, man.
So first, like we always do, we'll start off with my Bears. Thursday night, man. What if those Thursday night games just have not lived up to par? They've all been terrible. Even though it was my team, and I watched it, and I thought it was good because it was my team, probably. But anybody else watching probably thought it was trash. The Bears had a chance to win that game. Fields played okay. He missed a couple throws here and there. But he made a couple throws at the end of the game that the receiver should have caught. The one to Pettis in the corner of the end zone. Yeah, he was falling down, but he still got two hands on it, and he dropped it. Then Mooney, if he catches that the first time clean, it's touchdown. But, of course, he dropped it, then re-caught it, and by the time he re-caught it, he was out of the end zone. And it is what it is. Chicago's not going to be good this year. It's a rebuilding year. We'll have plenty of cap room next year. Did you get a chance to watch that, James, or did you just follow it?
No, I followed it. I watched. I literally watched someone watching it, if that makes sense. Somebody streaming it, and they were giving the play-by-play. His name is Tom Grassi. He's a great streamer out there, and he was breaking down the game, having a little fun in between. Just because it was, it seems like almost all the primetime games have been really bad. And you need some type of different entertainment than what the service gives you, the streaming service or the channels. So I've been doing that mostly. And what I noticed about the game, Carson Wentz got hurt. I think he's out 4 to 6 weeks, I believe.
Yeah.
So Tyler Heineke, who I've been pleading for to play for Washington to start, they went out and got a big name. I know, big name, but with Carson Wentz. But I'm really interested to see what they do with Heineke. I know with Justin Fields, you're just trying to survive this year to go to next year, honestly. With that cap room, you're trying to get some good players coming in there, guys who can see the vision, see the future maybe of the Bears going forward. You still have that rushing attack with Herbert and Montgomery. If you use that even more, especially as the weather gets worse, I think that's going to be awesome. A lot of teams, they're just throwing it on third down and short. And I saw that today in the Monday night game. And I want to see more conversions made by running. So hopefully the Bears can do that. Fields can only throws when he needs to. That might lead to more success, but the numbers weren't really staggering in this game as I think everybody thought it would be. But, Dave, I wanted to ask you, and I thought of this when I saw this right away. They were wearing a different shade of orange helmet with the different shade of orange jersey. Did you like that uniform and helmet that they have now?
I'll use the word that the cool kids are using these days. I thought it was clean.
Yeah, okay. It was just weird because, Minnesota all those years had a different shade of purple helmet and uniform. So that was really odd. I mean, they looked like a whole pumpkin out there. It was funny, but
well, it's like Roquan Smith said, he's like, we got to go out and look like a highlighter for a night.
I didn't think about that. Yeah. So, both teams are 2-4 now and just trying to survive the season already, it seems like.
And then the schedule doesn't get easier. We got the Patriots and the Cowboys and the Dolphins. So, we're looking for that number one pick, probably.
Yeah. Patriots Monday night.
And the good thing about it is there's so many good quarterbacks coming out this year. And if the Bears decide that Fields is a guy, they can package that pick and get multiple picks and even the first next year. So they'll have 2 firsts. So
that's going to be a tough sell, You're just hoping if he does go somewhere, hopefully he thrives in a better system. I don't know if that will be the case because it's all on Justin and whomever comes out of Ohio State as a quarterback. I mean, same thing with USC. We've always had quarterbacks that didn't, fare well unless you're like Carson Palmer, Rodney Pete. But it always seems like Ohio
Palmer's probably
State.
the best one out of the bunch. So I mean,
Yeah,
Liner didn't do
yeah.
anything.
Mm-mm.
I can't think of any other
There's so
USC
many. There's
quarterbacks.
too many.
Yeah, so Palmer's probably the best one out of the bunch. But yeah, Ohio State really hasn't produced any big name quarterbacks either.
Mm-mm.
It's a jinx. They're all about running backs and defenders.
Mm-hmm.
So
Receivers.
normally we jump right into your Raiders, but they had a bye this week. Did they win that bye or did they lose?
Well, I thought about it yesterday, and I said, well, no players got arrested that I know of. Nobody made Instagram videos that were explicit. Nobody's showing out in Las Vegas, so I think it was a win on a bye for the Raiders. Nobody got in trouble for once.
So let's see what other games we have here. The Colts beat the Jaguars, the Colts finally beat the Jaguars 34-27. The Jags have kind of had their number lately, but I know it's like a home and home thing. The home team usually wins that game. But it was nice to see the Colts finally get off that and beat the Jags. I know, like last year, the Jags knocked them out of the playoffs. I didn't see the game. I didn't see any highlights, so I don't have a whole lot to say about this game. Do you?
Well, it shows that Jacksonville was definitely the flavor of the month, and that month has changed into October, and they've been on their way down. They lost to Houston last week at home, which I thought they were going to destroy them, and
I think everybody did.
Yeah, they ran all over them. This was a game you saw vintage Matt Ryan come out. He was 42 for 58. He threw it 58 times without Jonathan Taylor. He threw for almost 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Definitely everybody was getting involved. Michael Pittman Jr. out of SC, he did well, although he didn't score a touchdown. It seems like their touchdowns, they come out of the red zone. It usually comes to their tight ends, but as long as they get the job done, and it makes that division, the AFC South, it makes it even tighter now because Jacksonville has fallen. Tennessee was on a bye. Indy's right there, 3-2-1. So it just makes things hazier. Let's just say in the AFC South.
Yeah, I agree. Jacksonville was hot. They had like top 5 defense and offense, but once that calendar month turned, it's like the clock struck midnight. And
Yep.
Yeah, so the Giants, who are really surprising a lot of people at 5-1, 4-1, something like that.
4-1.
4-1. They beat the Ravens 24-20.
I'm sorry, 5-1.
It is 5-1.
I'm sorry, 5-1.
Yeah, they beat the Ravens 24-20. I thought the Ravens would really stick it to them and win by at least 17. But the Giants are proving a lot of people they are for real. Brian Dable's really done something with that offense. He's got Daniel Jones doing bootlegs and play actions and using his legs to get first downs. And they're just really the way they beat Green Bay last week and then they beat the Ravens this week. They're really showing that they might be for real. What do you think about them?
Well, first, I think it shows bad on Baltimore how they cannot keep a lead, especially when they score, around 16 points. It's kind of like what Denver does. They can never keep a lead. Always something happens later on in the game in second half, fourth quarter. Lamar will fumble and throw a pick like on the last play. Their defense just crumbles. New York, though, with the coach Brian Dable there, he's installed some type of winning success that hasn't been there in a while, probably since 2017, and a great culture when you think about it. And I hope I'm not saying this for nothing, as if they collapse later on in the year. I hope that doesn't happen, but they're winning games, let's just say fundamentally, right? So they're running the ball well. Defensively, late in games, they are shutting down teams, and I love that. It's something you really haven't seen from the Giants in a long time. they're always known for their defense. When you go 80s, 2000s, you mix some offense in there, but you know them by their defense. And they have a really good young defense. Saquon Barkley is back. He's playing somewhat MVP caliber football. Daniel Jones, you're asking for him not to do too much, and you know you're not going to get much, but
True.
you just want him to do the simple things. You mentioned bootleg passes, running on third down when he needs to. So they're doing it, and they're not putting up great passing numbers, but enough rushing. But their defense is coming through so big. They're forcing turnovers. They're doing whatever they can to win, and it's been fun to watch. And I'm really happy for them.
All right, moving on to the next one, we have the Patriots beat the Browns pretty handily, 38-15. I didn't see a lot of this game. I know the Browns turned the ball over quite a bit in that game, and Patriots capitalized. I don't think Zappy did a whole lot, but they still ended up winning the game. Zappy still looks good. I guess there's a debate on who they're going to start Monday night against the Bears, Zappy or Mac Jones. I think I would stick with Zappy. I'd let Jones rest a little longer. What did you think of the game?
I always hate those quarterback controversies, and the Raiders really haven't had one in a while because Carr's been here since 2014. But Bailey Zappi, man, he threw for 309 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was awesome. And then Stevenson, the running back, he had 2 touchdowns. He ran for 76 yards, but they do enough as well. And then their defense, the Patriot defense, they held Chubb to only 56 yards on the ground, and I think that was a definite key because Jacoby Brissett, who the Patriots know, they defended him so well. That was definitely the key for me. But that would be a tough decision. Bill Belichick, of course, he knows this decision. 21 years ago, he had to do a decision like this. Does he keep Bledsoe or Brady on the field, or does he go back to Bledsoe? Right. We all know what's sprung from that. And I know this is a Bears show, but for Belichick to pass or to tie Hallis at 324, the wins, I believe, and I think that's a big mark. Shula's at like 347.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Belichick will get there. He's going to have to, coach a couple more years maybe. But the Patriots continue to win like this. Being a young defensive team, you're taking advantage of a Browns team that's kind of lost right now. But the big key, though, was stopping Chubb on the ground.
I was thinking about that the way he tied Hallis. I'm hoping that the Bears beat him next week so he doesn't beat Hallis playing against the Bears.
Yeah.
Break Hallis' record. So, that'd be kind of interesting if he did pass Hallis, beating Hallis' team.
Wow.
I hope it doesn't happen, but
mm-hmm.
And I guess I was wrong. I was thinking last week when Zappy didn't do much, but he did do a lot this week. My bad.
No, I had to look for myself because everybody kept talking about him,
Right. Okay, next one we have John's Bengals. They beat the Saints 30-26. Again, I didn't watch a whole lot of the games because the Bears played Thursday night. I mostly slept Sunday. So, good for John's Bengals to get back on track. I think it's their second game in a row they won.
Yeah. Dalton threw for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. It was interesting because they were facing Andy Dalton, and he only threw, for 162 yards and 1 touchdown. Both teams didn't really get much on the ground, but this was Burrow to Chase connection pretty much all game long. 7 receptions for 132 yards and 2 touchdowns for Jamar Chase. I don't know if you saw, but Burrow was wearing Jamar Chase's actual uniform from the national championship back in 2020, because they were playing in the Superdome, so they have fond memories of being there. And something like that could definitely, ignite a team, ignite a relationship like they have. And that's just been a connection that's brought them so much success so far. I can remember, of course, um, the deal was, hey, you have to draft a offensive lineman to protect Burrow. But you see Chase and Burrow hooking up, and it's like, well, as long as he gets the ball out, it's fine. Burrow
Right.
was sacked 3 times, but they were able to hold on. The defense did enough. You could still believe, without Michael Thomas there, that the Saints are going to struggle.
See, this is why I have my man James on the show. He comes with the knowledge and the stats. Love it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next we have the Steelers and the Bucks. I know that Pickett was knocked out of this game with concussion in the third. My boy Trubisky came back and rescued him and saved the day. I believe he had through for 9 of 12 for like 140 something yards. And I think he had a touchdown, but I can't remember. But yeah, Pittsburgh came back and won. Tom Brady and the Bucks are kind of broke right now. Yeah, I think all the extra stuff going outside of the game for Tom Brady's getting to him. Or it could be father time. It's one of the two that's catching up to him.
I think it's both, actually. And, credit to Trubisky, just doing enough. I was wondering because I think I went up to go do something. I was watching Red Zone, and I saw Trubisky playing, and I'm like, uh-oh, what happened to Kenny Pickett? And, yeah, happened to be a concussion. But, but more of this game was on Brady and the Bucks. Just something's not there. The offensive line, basically. They lost a lot on the offensive line in the offseason and in injury. Without Jensen there, the center, that's been brutal. Their running game's not as fluent with Fournette and White. That's just not there. It's not really. It hasn't been there with Najee Harris and the Steelers, but Claypool did have a nice game. He caught an important touchdown late from Trubisky. That was just lucky to get that game. I think everybody had the Bucks, but
I know I did.
yeah. So I think this was Tom Brady's 4th loss to the Steelers all time. And think about how many times the Steelers and Pats played, especially in the playoffs. So to only lose to him, their 4th time, his 4th time is something to think about.
All right, moving on. Next game, we are going to go to the Niners and Falcons. And I thought the Niners would really play a lot better and win this game. I didn't expect the Falcons to double up and win by 2 touchdowns, 28-14. But Mariota really played a good game.
Yeah, Mariota did it by his feet, but you can definitely tell. I don't want to make excuses, but injuries are all over for San Francisco, especially on the defensive side. Really bad right now. But Mariota, he only threw 429 yards, but he threw for 2 touchdowns. He also ran for 50 yards and a touchdown. So it's one of those games where you really don't have to do much. And, I think without Bosa, that really hurt, of course, off of the line there. That really hurt. You got to give credit, though, to Atlanta. They're doing it somehow. And to beat San Francisco, who's a great opponent, was truly shocking. But I think it's more on San Francisco having their injury woes. And somehow both teams are 3-3. And just San Francisco has to get healthier. And that's what it comes down to. And Jimmy Garoppolo, he threw for 296 yards. He had 2 touchdowns, but he had the 2 interceptions that were really big. I know Samuel had 7 receptions for 79 yards, but he only ran for 11 yards on 2 carries. If there was some way to get him more involved, I would do it. You pay him all that money in the offseason. Right. He deletes his social media of anything 49ers. He does that to get his way. And then you don't really use him as much as you should. And I'm thinking if you're San Francisco, you got to do that more. You got to use him more to be more successful going down the line.
Exactly. And they just don't seem to get him the ball enough after you paid him all that money. But next, I'm really happy about this game. The Jets destroyed Green Bay. They look broke. They look lost. Aaron Rodgers looked lost. I know it's weird to say. He doesn't have the receivers. The running game is non-existent. The block punt really helped the Jets. The Jets won 27-10. But yeah, I was really happy the Green Bay loss made my day.
Yeah, I bet so. The Jets are now 4-2. I was
Yep.
trying to remember when the probably 2011 or maybe that one year with Fitzpatrick when they were 10-6. I think maybe not even that year. So maybe 2009 or 10 was the last time they were 4-2. But I was watching this game among others, and I was just shocked. Uh, first of all, with Aaron Rodgers, he only had 246 yards passing, one touchdown, and he was sacked 4 times. The offensive line's kind of taking a beating. The thing is, though, with Rodgers, he wants to do it himself through the air, and there were so many times in the game I felt like uh, they had like third and short, like third and one, third and two, third and three, and you have those two workhorses in the backfield,
Right.
AJ Dillon and of course Aaron Jones, and they don't use them, and that really hurt because he's not hitting his receivers, and like I say, he just keeps going downfield on these short games that they need, and that really hurt. And maybe they got to change something up. I know Packer Nation, whatever you call them, I know they're really angry right now. I mean, when you think about it, look, Jones only had 19 yards rushing, Dillon only had 41, and you don't really see that. That's showing that there's a lot of panic in the Packer offense right now. But
Right.
Bryce Hall, when you get it to the good side of the game and the feel good side, Bryce Hall, 20 carries, 116 yards, and one touchdown. Burials had one on a sweep, I believe. The Jets are doing everything well, especially defensively and special teams. Zach Wilson, you're not expecting much from him right now. He's just trying to get his feet back wet. But it's panic time in Green Bay, it feels
It
like.
is. It really is.
Yeah, so shout out to the Jets though being 4-2. I don't think anyone had that, especially with Falco
No.
having to play the first 3 games. This is amazing to see by the Jets. I'm
It
happy
is. And
for them.
I really like that Sauce Gardner guy. He looks like a shutdown corner early. And I love
He,
how he took the
yeah,
cheese head and he walked around the field with it and totally
yeah.
trolling the Packers.
I know
Good
Alan
stuff.
Lazard hit it off with him, but he's just trying to create a brand by himself, and he's got his own sauce. I think at some Buffalo Wild Wings locations.
So it looks like you got a fan out there, Shardall, saying, "How are you, James?"
What's up, Shardo?
And next game, we'll move into the purple and gold. The Vikings beat the Dolphins 24-16. I think this game might have been different if Tua had been playing, but it
Yeah,
is what it is. Hats off to Minnesota. They're now 5-1, and they're really in total control of the division right now with everybody else falling off.
and originally I said, well, the Packers are a machine. I think they're going to work it out with Rodgers and all the different receivers. Nope. The Vikings right now 5-1, like you said, they're in control. They could always lose control. You never know. But right now, everything's working for them. And to win a game like that, probably hot conditions in Miami like they are, that's really good. And this was a game I don't think you had. Well, yeah, Jefferson had 107 yards receiving, but no trips to the house. But Thielen and Smith especially Irv Smith Jr. had a late touchdown catch. The thing that the Vikings couldn't do is corral Hill and Waddle. Both of them did not score a touchdown, but Gesicki did late. He had 2 actually, but for Waddle and Hill not to get in the end zone, that kind of changes when Tua's not there because usually they get the touchdowns. But even though they put up numbers, somehow they didn't get it in the end zone. But uh, this was tough to see. On the running game, though, usually Miami Mostert does well and Edmonds, but if they couldn't stop the pass, at least they stopped the run. And they made things kind of tough for Bridgewater late. He did throw a couple of touchdowns, but a couple of picks. With Kirk Cousins, he did, just about enough, I think. He only threw for 175 yards, but 2 touchdowns. But it was good to see Dalvin Cook get the late touchdown. Of course, he went to Florida State. So I think it must have been good for him to get the, you know, game clinching touchdown there against Miami.
Serdal, if you want to email the Coast to Coast Network, you can talk to Ace and J Mac. They're in charge of that. So go ahead and do that, and you can talk to them about joining. The next game we have, let me see. There we go. It's working now. Maybe not. There we go. The Rams and the Panthers. The Rams won this game 24-10. I thought that it was close for a while, and the Rams looked like they were going to lose this game for a little bit, and then they finally pulled away at the end. But the Rams kind of look broke too. They need to get more receivers involved besides Cup. You need to get Robinson involved more. I know he had a few catches that game, but in the running game, I guess Cam Akers is asking to be traded. He wants a fresh start.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
the Rams really need to get it together, and I think they're just slumping right now. Maybe they'll figure it out. Maybe it's Stafford's elbow. Who knows?
Let me tell you, their offensive line is really banged up. I think the last 3-4 weeks they've lost 4 offensive linemen. I think a couple of centers have been out. I know Brian Allen, he's been out for a while. He's their starting center, and he's been out. So that's pretty tough, especially when you got someone like Stafford who feels rushed on every play, and the running game isn't there because the offensive line isn't there. So that's been a real struggle for the Rams. Then they were down 10-7 at the half. It was tied at 10. LA finally pulled away. I think experience did it for the LA. Stafford in this game, 250 yards passed, 253 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, and he was sacked once. So that's kind of an improvement, only getting sacked once, other from like the 3 or 4 he usually
Right.
absorbs. A reminder though, Carolina had PJ Walker starting. No Mayfield, no Darnold, and I know now there's kind of, I don't want all 3 to play, and that's the feeling in Charlotte right now. But Darnold could play next week. He didn't put up a lot of great numbers. McCaffrey's just there. As many thought, if nothing went right for them, he would be traded, and that could be a possibility. McCaffrey.
The biggest thing for the Panthers is Robbie Anderson got kicked out of the game. The coach kicked him out of the stadium. He got traded today to the Cardinals.
Yeah, I was just about to mention that with Robbie Anderson. It was sort of like Michael Singletary and Vernon Davis back in the day. I think it was in 2010 or 11, whenever it was. But it was seen just like that, where just told him to go. And it's one of those things you see like in high school and college, but you rarely see it in the NFL, where it's an ejection by coach, not by referee. But that just shows you how much turmoil there is right now. I mean, for the game, I don't even see Anderson targeted, and I just wonder if it was a thing by the intern coach Wilkes just keeping him on the sidelines or telling someone not to throw to him. That's all I could think it was. But they probably have to trade McCaffrey. The thing is, everybody's going to know that they're desperate to get a lot for him, so the asking price is going to go lower for Christian McCaffrey. Cooper Kupp did have 80 yards. Robinson II did have a touchdown, like you mentioned. He got 5 catches. That's up from his usual 1 or none. So that really worked well for the Rams, at least. They just happened to play the right opponent. So lots of change going on right now with, both teams.
It is. Yeah. All right. Then moving on to the next game here, we got the Seahawks beat the Cardinals by 10, 19-9. And the Cardinals are kind of hurt now, but they should be getting a little stronger. They're getting Hopkins back this week. They traded for Anderson like we talked about, but Hollywood Brown's probably done for the season, I heard. But getting the Hopkins and Robbie Anderson should help them this week.
Yeah, I was shocked by the score. Murray only threw for 222 yards, but it seems like he was getting chased around a lot like he always does. He got sacked 6 times. I think that must have felt good for the Seahawk defense to only allow 9 points to them as well. I think that was awesome. He did run for 100 yards on 10 carries, so that was really good. But Ertz was the leading receiver there, so you could really tell, even though they have an aging AJ Brown and more, that they're going to miss Hollywood Brown. And now you get Hopkins and Anderson via trade. Those are two great additions there. Geno Smith, he isn't doing much, in the air, but he doesn't need to. The running game is doing fairly well. Remember, Rashad Penny is lost for the year, so Walker the third had to come in and run for a touchdown. Geno Smith had a six for 48 carries and eight average on every carry. So that was really good to see. Even had a 24-yard scamper, and that's when you thought, well, maybe the Seahawks got this game. And I think it's a lesson to Arizona where divisional game, anything can happen, so be prepared. And this was one of those games that they should have not lost. I know it was in Seattle, but maybe they were just lost without Hollywood Brown. They were that lost, but now maybe you'll see them do much better.
Yeah, they're starting to get the right guys back at the right time, so we'll see how that works out for them. And this one I thought was the game of the week. It's a rematch from the playoffs last year. It was just an instant classic. Back and forth game, 24-20. The Bills beat the Chiefs. Mahomes threw the pick at the end that lost them a game. It's kind of like a rare mistake you see from Mahomes there. I thought this was an exciting game. It wasn't as good as a playoff game, but it was almost there. The Buffalo almost did the same thing they did last year. They did a squib kick at the end of the half with 12 seconds left, and they let Kansas City drive, get field goal range, and then Bucker makes a 62-yard field goal at the end of the half, tied at 10. And then at the end of the game, it went back and forth, and Buffalo took the late lead, and like I said, Mahomes threw the late pick that cost him the game. So,
this game felt very conservative to what I think we were all hoping for, but I think it goes to show the maturity of the Bills now, where they learned from last year, from the playoffs. Hey, don't leave 13 seconds on. But they learned how to win. They learned from that moment, and they learned how to get stops on Mahomes when they needed to. Force fourth down. Something. Josh Allen threw for 329 yards. Three touchdowns, and he didn't get picked. Mahomes threw for 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, and 338 yards. On the ground, Singletary only had 85 yards. Hilaire and Mahomes didn't do much on the ground. But that connection with Allen and Diggs, I mean, it's pretty amazing. 10 receptions for 148 yards, 1 touchdown. Gabe Davis had a touchdown as well. That was pretty amazing. Dawson Knox had an important touchdown. So Allen's pretty much spreading the ball around, and that's really great to see with the Bills. Their defense made some timely stops. You mentioned the late pick. Juju Smith-Schuster finally had one of his, really great games. 5 receptions, 113 yards with a touchdown. Kelsey had 108 yards. Hartman had a touchdown. But I think it comes down to Buffalo making the key stops. Again, I think they learned from last year and previous years how to win and how to get there.
I think the big thing for them is bringing in Von Miller to be the closer and to get the pressure at the end like he did. So, everybody thought, they gave Von a big contract. He's not going to see the whole thing, but it's working out so far for them.
He had 2 sacks, and he had a very important one late, and he was applying the pressure all game long, it felt like. Shaq Lawson also had a sack. And that's something you rarely see with Mahomes because he usually gets to, run and throw the ball away or make something happen. But, like I said, though, the Bills making plays. Von Miller makes the biggest difference. And right now, the Bills are 4-1, and they're looking like the favorites in the AFC. I think this game proves it.
I think a lot of people forgot, like Romo mentioned, a lot of people forgot that Buffalo beat Kansas City in regular season last year, too.
Yeah.
So we'll see if it holds the same. If they get beat by KC in the playoffs again this year, but I'd love to see the matchup again in the playoffs.
Oh yeah.
Uh, Next, we got the Eagles and Cowboys. Eagles won 26-17. Cowboys turned the ball over an awful lot this game. It looked like it should. The score looks like it was closer than what it really was. It wasn't as close as the score indicated.
Yeah, it was 20-3 at the half, and you really thought, oh man, there's going to be a quarterback change in Dallas next week, and it'll probably be Dak coming back for the Cowboys. Cooper Rush, though, he did what he could, but he had to. It seems like he had to do more because of the score. He did throw for 3 picks. He did have 1 touchdown, but he threw for 181 yards, but that was really much it. Jalen Hurts didn't have to do much. He threw for 2 touchdowns. He was sacked 4 times, only threw for 155 yards. The credit, though, I think goes to the Philadelphia defense pressuring Rush. Elliott only had 81 yards on the ground. He did score a touchdown, but Pollard only had 44. Lamb only had 68 yards receiving, and Ferguson only had the 1 touchdown. And then Noah Brown, he only had 1 catch for 10 yards. If you've seen the stats throughout the year so far, Noah Brown has been the leading receiver for the Cowboys. And Darius Slay Jr., the rest of that secondary for Philadelphia, they were all over him yesterday, and that was really good to see. Miles Sanders had a rushing touchdown. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith had receiving touchdowns. So it was, all in all, really good team effort, but mostly on the defense for Philadelphia. When I think about it, no one had sacks, but the pick by Slay was big. Gardner Johnson had 2 interceptions. Of course, he came over from the Saints, and those 2 have been awesome defensively in the secondary. So credit to the Eagles. Again, they're the only undefeated team at 6-0. They're looking like the best in the NFC right now. And when you think about it, the NFC, other from the Eagles, you got the Giants and the Vikings that are 5-1. Everybody else is kind of mid or Washington. Everybody's either up or down.
Yeah. Now we'll get into that Monday night game. I didn't get to watch it. I was grocery shopping with the wife, so and plus I wouldn't watch anyway because it's a Broncos game. Usually the opponents play down the Broncos. The Chargers did win this game, 19-16. Did you watch the game, James, or did you catch highlights?
Oh yeah, I watched it. I have, lots of family and friends on both sides of the, spectrum here. I hate both teams, by the way. Of course, you see Raiders, but this was a game that was mirrored by a lot of penalties, a lot of flags that probably shouldn't have been, a lot of ticky-tack pass interference calls, and big ones that awarded the Chargers more than it did the Broncos. And I see it fairly where I'm listening to a Broncos stream as I'm watching the game, and I know he's one-sided, of course, but he had so many reasonings on why calls were made. This game was just a lot of field goals, couple touchdowns. Wilson threw for 1. He was sacked 4 times. He threw for 188 yards. Herbert had 238 yards passing, no touchdowns, 1 pick, and he was sacked. The Denver rushing is an issue without Javonte Williams. Latavius Murray had 66 yards rushing, but Gordon had only 8. Wow. Eckler did have a rushing touchdown, but only 36 yards rushing. Dulich only had the receiving touchdown, the tight end for Denver. As you could tell, it wasn't really much of a game stat-wise in the air, and you would have thought. And I know they were hyping this up on Monday Night Football. Well, we have the best quarterbacks who throw the most in the air, and they gain the most yardage. But this, remember, is Justin Herbert without Keenan Allen, and he's got the ribs injury. And then you have Russell Wilson and the Broncos, who are very, very bad offensively.
They're so bad.
I think everybody keeps thinking about Russell Wilson with Seattle, and that's been the big key. The game winning play though in overtime, and it was really late in overtime, by the way. There was a what was it? Now this was tough though because it was a punt by the Chargers down at the Denver 30-yard line, and the receiver the punt returner was about to catch it, but then he was pushed into by a Charger, but a Bronco hit him, and that made a fumble happen, and that gave the Chargers great field position. And Dustin Hopkins, who hit not one, not two, not three, but four field goals today, and the game-winning field goal. And he also had, I think, a bad hip throughout. After his one field goal, he fell, and it looked like he was going to be out for the game. But he kept kicking field goals. And then every time he kicked the field goal, he fell because he couldn't stay upright. So just think about he's the MVP of the game, no doubt. Without him, I think they tie this game at 16. And
that just shows you that kickers are tough too.
Yeah, no doubt. And it just shows you again, Denver, when they get to 16 points, like the Ravens do with 17, they fumble and lose the game. It's just those magic numbers for them, or haunted numbers for them. When Denver scores 16, they somehow give it up. So it's just funny how all this year, this season so far, just a lot of madness. Unless you're, the Vikings or the Eagles or the Bills, even though they had the slip up in Miami. But every other team has gone through something weird this year. And just think about it. We're going into week 7 now. Yeah, so it's been crazy so far.
All right, so that'll wrap up the end of the show. We've covered all the week 6 scores and stats and highlights. Thanks to James. Final thoughts, James.
Well, Detroit, Houston, Tennessee, and the Raiders all had a bye. So it wasn't so much of a stress-filled week for me as the Raiders are on a bye. But next week, the Raiders host Houston, and if we lose that, the season is for sure over. I mean, we're 1-4, and it feels like we have no chance at all. But if you lose to Houston, we definitely don't have a chance. So hopefully get the win next week, and I'll be watching, of course, Monday night. Is that in New England for Chicago?
I gotta check that out. Let me check real quick.
Let's see. Yeah, it's in New England. I'll definitely be watching, but
it's in New England. Okay,
it's going to be a tough task, and you might get zapped. Who knows, Dave? But I'm hoping the Bears win.
Yeah, you're right. It is in New England. It's going to be tough unless they get Phil's better protection. I mean, he got hit so many times that game. There were times I thought he wasn't going to get up.
Yeah, that's what I kept hearing about that.
It was bad, but anyways, thanks for watching. And also, before we go, I want to say I feel really dumb because before the season started, we made our predictions. I predicted every team from the West to make the playoffs.
Oh, I did too. You're not the only one.
So now it's not looking so good. But on that note, thanks for joining us, James. Thanks for being here as always. Appreciate you. We will see you next week for another episode of Nightcap with Messaround and Friends.